Since 1972, Title IX has allowed women to thrive and excel in sports nationwide. This landmark legislation has empowered countless women to compete at the highest levels, achievements we should honor and protect. Yet the left has embarked on a relentless campaign to rewrite Title IX, aiming to erase the critical distinctions between men and women, boys and girls. This misguided agenda poses a direct threat to the very spirit of Title IX, opening the doors for biological males to compete in women's sports, thereby undermining the hard-won accomplishments of female athletes nationwide. Let me be clear, House Republicans will not idly stand by while the radical left diminishes over 5 decades of progress for women. The Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act is essential for ensuring that all young women who aspire to play sports have the opportunity to compete fairly, preserving fairness and protecting their achievements. We must safeguard the integrity of female athletics so that young women can succeed in sports for generations to come.
You're about to witness a masterclass in shutting down and debunking right-wing propaganda from House progressives who refuse to let Republicans get away with bullying and discriminating against one of the smallest minority groups of people in the country, all under the guise of fairness and protecting women. But first, here's just a brief glimpse at what these bigots are saying.
Scripture reminds us that at the beginning of time, God created mankind as males and females, and he blessed them. All throughout humanity, we have recognized as a species that there are women and there are men as God created who are obviously biologically different and, dare I say, scientifically different. Even science agrees with this premise. Yet our culture and civilization continue to be subjected to the perverse lie that there are more than 2 genders, or that men can be women, or women can be men. The distinction between men and women is clear and evident. And the erasure of this division has been promulgated by those in the radical left who seek to dismantle the core foundation of our society. We must never let our country and the American way of life surrender to this immoral ideology. What a shame it is that over the last several years, the radical left has tried to corrupt the minds of many Americans with the ideology that gender is just a spectrum, that it's fluid. You can be whatever you want, whenever you want, depending on how you feel. To them, it's just a social construct. It's a sad day in our country when radical leftists are willing to erase the rights that women have fought decades to obtain, all to elevate biological males to the top of women's platforms.
We need to protect the concept of the woman, and the woman must be protected, and H.R. 28 is the only path forward. It is shameful that the opposition party does not support the protection of women. We have to define what a woman is again, and H.R. 28 is the only vehicle that could actually protect women in America, and whether it's in high school or whether it's in college, for them to pursue their dreams.
Kicking girls off sports teams to make way for biological males takes opportunities away from these girls. This means fewer college scholarships and fewer opportunities for girls. It also makes them second-class citizens in their own sports and puts their safety at risk. The Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act offers a new promise to America's women and girls. It will strengthen Title IX's protections for women, ensure a level playing field for female athletes, and protect the law from current and future radical regulatory schemes.
Let me get this out the way. It is absurd that this topic is even being discussed as a serious political issue when you consider the fact that there are 510,000 athletes competing in NCAA schools, and there are fewer than 10 transgender athletes competing at these schools. Fewer than 10 when you have 510,000 altogether. Not even 1%. Okay, it's not even 1%. What are we doing here? It is so meaningless and pointless to be having congressional sessions about something like this, where you're targeting a very vulnerable community that is not doing anything to harm the public. One of the reasons why Republicans have used this specific topic as a wedge issue to drive the country apart is because they want to rile up their base and make sure they still vote for them. And part of their base, evangelical Christians, right? Because this topic that we're discussing really plays into some people's faith and their belief system and what religion they practice. So evangelical Christians are like, well, in the Bible it says it's only supposed to be the male and the female, right? They want to promote themselves as empowering women and protecting women. But you're not. You're not at all. You're giving the illusion that you are. But it's not real whatsoever, because we see what you do when women are harmed or violated, or when they're not protected. If anybody tells you they're trying to protect women when it comes to transgender athletes, they're full of it. And they're relying on a bunch of misinformation and ignorance. Now, let's hear from some real fighters in the Democratic Party who aren't afraid to stand up for what's right, regardless of how unpopular their opinion is.
Republicans who have voted consistently against the Violence Against Women Act, who have taken away the right of all women to choose and have control over their own body, who, as women are bleeding out in parking lots across the country, standing there, allowing us to die, now want to pretend today that they care about women. And why? To open up gender and, yes, genital examinations into little girls in this country in the so-called name of attacking trans girls. And to that, today, what we have to say are two words: not today. The majority right now says there's no place in this bill that says it opens up for genital examinations. Well, here's the thing. There's no enforcement mechanism in this bill. And when there is no enforcement mechanism, you open the door to every enforcement mechanism. Trans girls are girls. And for all the folks that are so concerned, thank you for your concern about women for the first time that I've seen. I don't know about y'all, I don't know who's been to gym class lately, but girls, even if you only believe in two genders, I've played co-ed sports all the time. But what this also opens the door for is for women to try to perform a very specific kind of femininity for the very kind of men who are drafting this bill, and to open up questioning of who is a woman because of how we look, how we present ourselves, and yes, what we choose to do with our bodies. I know who loves this bill. Yes, bigoted folks love this bill. Assaulters love this bill. But also, CEOs love this bill. Because Los Angeles is on fire right now. And this is the #1 priority this majority has.
AOC couldn't have said it better. Not only does this bill give license for all sorts of bad faith actors to take advantage of children, but it conveniently distracts the American public from tax breaks and the slashing of business regulations that Trump and the Republicans are dead set on ramming through Congress.
Never did I think that my first debate of this new Congress would be debating a Republican bill that empowers pedophiles and predators. They say it's about protecting women, but that's a damn lie. This bill puts all girls, all children at risk in our school systems and across this entire country. We have a bill like this in my state of Florida. And I'll tell you this quick story of a high school student who was student government president of her entire school. And now she's forced to take classes online after authorities published a 500-page report where they forced her classmates to share whether or not they have seen her naked in the locker room and seen her genitalia. Strangers, adult men, could ask girls as young as 4 years old personal questions about their body. And so my question is, they say it's about protecting girls, but for people listening at home, is it protecting girls to empower strangers to question your daughter about what's in their pants? No, it's disgusting. Is it protecting girls to empower adult men to ask your daughter to inspect what's in her pants while you're not around? No, that is pedophilia. It is predatory behavior. The hate on the other side of the aisle for trans Americans is so much so that they're willing to put all of our children, all of our daughters at risk of a serious problem in this country. So to protect our kids, we have to vote no on the Republican Child Predator Empowerment Act.
What I really like about the way Maxwell Frost approaches argument is he gave an example from his own state in a similar bill that was passed in Florida that people could resonate with, right? Somebody who was the student government body president now has to take online classes because authorities in a 500-page report forced her classmates to tell them whether they saw her naked, whether they saw her body parts naked. And then also, I love how he drove home the message that, listen, this bill that is supposedly about protecting girls and women is actually going to put them at more risk. It's going to harm more of them and leave them more traumatized than before, because children as young as 4 years old, girls as young as 4 years old, can be questioned by strangers about their body parts. 4 years old. These are innocent children. So I feel like if that doesn't make you feel compassion or compelled to vote no for the bill, then there is something wrong with you. 4 years old. It is only going to create more chaos and more uncomfortable and unnecessary situations involving girls. It's not just trans athletes, right? This is going to negatively affect so many little children. And I don't understand how people, like, as he points out, pedophilia, right? You're going to have perverts out there that now have the ability, feel empowered to ask these questions about little girls and their body parts. Not medical professionals, not doctors, not licensed practitioners, none of that. Strangers and men.
Imagine you are 8 years old trying out for the soccer team and your coach demands that you show them your genitals. That is abuse. That is exploitation. That is egregious. But it is exactly what this Republican bill does. It allows adults, not medical professionals, just random adults, to demand to inspect your child's genitals without parental consent. As a survivor of a near decade of childhood sexual abuse, and as a bonus mom to a school-aged daughter, I am horrified. To the members of Congress who support this legislation, you are putting the safety of children across this nation at risk. And why? Because you want to vilify and harm trans kids. Children who should have every right to show up in this world and live and thrive like anyone else. You are punching down on the most vulnerable and exacting harm on everyone. They pose no threat to you, but you pose a threat to them, denying them their health care, isolating them from their friends, creating conditions for bullying and even suicide ideation. You are posing a threat to every child who wants to step onto a soccer field or pick up a softball bat in this country. I urge my colleagues to vote no and speak out in strong opposition to this disgusting predatory bill that does nothing to keep a single child safe.
At the end of the day, it's about protecting trans athletes and women. And guess what? You can do both at the same time. Who would have thought you can do both at the same time? Because trans athletes, trans women are not harming women. Thank you very much. For Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.